Hello and welcome back, everybody, to True Remembrance. So, last episode we got to know more of the backstory of La. Apparently she once had long black hair. And she is with evil grandpa, whose name I once more forgot. That is why I can't read fantasy books. I can't. Like, I read War and Peace. And at least while reading the book, I remembered every single name. Every single name. Give me a fantasy story with 5 names, and one of them is made up. I will totally have forgotten it in the course of 2 hours. I just can't remember fantasy names. Something with A-N-L or something. And I don't remember. But I guess we'll find out again. God damn it, how could I forget? But there came a point when I found myself between assignments, and I began to wonder about what had happened to the unlikely pair. I'd been planning on heading out of town anyhow, so I decided I'd drop by the church. Maybe I'd find the girl there. I was, after all, starting to get pretty worried about how she was doing. Fair enough. We all worry about her, because evil grandpa planned something evil. Otherwise, Black Iris wouldn't have shot him, basically. Also, he's suspicious. It was an unusually sunny day. Shards of stray light flickered and faded in the puddles that dotted the streets. The stained glass windows of the church came into view, almost alive in the day star's shining exhalation. I opened the door and went inside. It was pleasantly cool within. The air was quiet and still. I remembered that the girl lived in the basement. Except it was too dark for me to really see much, which meant I had no idea where the stairs down were supposed to be. Come on, even I can see. This church is really not that dark. Also, it's Catholic. At least, yeah, it must be Catholic because of the... goddammit, what do you call it in English? Like the pictures on the wall that portray Jesus' way to being crucified. That's only Catholic churches have that, right? Wrong? At least I think so. But then I realized someone was here with me. Over there, where the benches were. I'd found her. There she was, sitting on the floor, motionlessly. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that she was praying or something like that. She looked toward me when she heard my footsteps, and her eyes went round in surprise when she saw who I was. "Did you come to see me?" she said, her eyes glittering with excitement. Now that wasn't altogether unpleasant, but man, this was making me want to blush. You can control that? Good on you. Man, I blush all the time and it is awkward. Pretty much. I was wondering what happened to you, as I haven't seen you around for a while. The girl's face went blank for a moment, but then she managed a small and troubled smile. "Got a little busy. I couldn't leave this place." There was something awfully suspicious about what she had just said, but for now I was relieved. She was alive and well. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried, thought something might have happened. Anyway, I'll leave you be. "You're leaving? Already?" "Yeah, I've got a bunch of things to do today, so..." And I felt sorry for her, but I did have to go. If I didn't get this stuff done, it would never be. She looked up at me, down at the ground, and up at me again. Then diffidently she asked, "May I come with?" "Come with? You do realize that I'm heading out of town, right?" "Yeah," she replied sadly. This was the first time she had ever asked anything of me, so naturally I was taken by surprise. "But you can't go out, can you? You don't have a memory site protocol permit, so they wouldn't let you back in." "There's a tunnel, underground. Pops used it, when he used to slip out of town. Used the same route, to come see me. No problem if we take that." There was a strange expression in her eyes now. I had never seen it before. Then I realized what it was. She was desperate. "Please, I really don't want to be here. Nothing but bad memories." I wonder why. I mean, it can't be bad memories from back home, I guess. So evil grandpa did something evil here, I suppose. Very well then. I finally gave in. Okay, then you go ahead and use the tunnel. Wait for me on the other end. I'll meet you there. Okay. Sorry about this. Don't worry about it. Besides, I'd feel better if you came with me anyhow. I replied with a smile. She just stared at me. Obviously, she had no idea what I was talking about. Her eyes glittered in the dark. And the weird thing was, I was starting to feel better about today already. I took the trolley to First Street, walked to the gate, and showed my ID and my leave authorization to the guard on duty. He looked through all my documentation, nodded, and mentioned for the gate to be opened. Not even a memory site could come and go as he pleased. Not in this city. I'd gotten my leave authorized over at HQ just yesterday, for instance. But not in Nottingham. References! I walked out of a small side gate. The walls of the city stood behind me. There was nothing for miles around. No matter where you looked, it was all grassy hills and forests. Not a single soul to be seen. It had been a long time since I had last left the city. Maybe about a year ago. Maybe longer. Well, first things first. Time to get my young companion. She had shown me where the entrance to the tunnel was on my map. Tunnel is German, tunnel is English. So it was simple enough to find. And sure enough, there she was, poking her head out from a small hole in the ground. She came out entirely when she saw me, and ran up the hill to where I was. We're going to be walking to the closest town from here. Will you be okay? Yes, she replied with a nod, and a deep breath of fresh autumn air. And so we started walking. For every hill we climbed, yet another one appeared. My companion seemed to be fascinated by every plant, every tree, every bush, every flower she encountered. She went running every single time something new appeared on the horizon. She has actually a lot of stamina for someone who basically always is hanging around in a church, not being allowed to leave, you know. She was going to be fast asleep when we got home for sure. We arrived in town in due course, and I flagged down a taxi. In due course, not curse. When I gave the driver my destination, he said, "Oh yes, that's a lovely part of town, isn't it?" He wasn't wrong, by the way. That was my opinion of it too. Shortly thereafter, the taxi dropped us off at our destination. I headed toward a house at the end of the street, with the girl close behind me. The house had a small garden, the lawn was green and well kept, and the flower bed was beautiful. But the most beautiful thing of all was standing there with a hose, watering her garden. I stopped the instant I saw her. My companion looked up at me quizzically. A gentle breeze swept through the area, and it carried with it the fragments of Maria's song. Okay, I was already wondering how we get her into this whole backstory stuff. I mean, yet another flashback after this flashback would have been kinda too much, you know? This brought back so many memories. For instance, the last time I'd heard her sing the song, she told me about her dreams. To live in a little house, raising lots of flowers. That was all she would say. Such a little dream, yes, but not one that could ever come true in the city where we were born. The song, beautiful, isn't it? My companion murmured. Yeah. I replied with a smile and turned away. At the same time, I heard someone from the inside the house calling Maria's name, to which she replied with a bright and cheerful voice. Let's go. But she stayed there, looking back at Maria and her garden for a long time. We got off the taxi and started heading back toward our city. Except my companion had changed quite a bit. Instead of running around and exploring her surroundings, now she was refusing to leave my side. I could still hear Maria's song ringing in my ears. It was such a bright and happy voice, one I'd never heard when we were together. I hadn't seen her in a year. Did people really change that fast? I guess they did. I mean, 5 years ago, I'd left the city where I'd been born in order to become a memory site at all costs. I'd wanted to make Maria's dream, house and flowers and all, come true. That was the only reason I'd ever had, the only one I'd ever needed. And so I lost touch with her for 2 years. Couldn't be avoided. Only those with memory-sidal potential were allowed within the confines of the academy, and no one was allowed out until graduation, or washout. The academy was an incredibly peaceful place. I never would have believed it. It was filled with friendly classmates and professors who showed much interest in you as a person. But I had no use for any of that. I turned it all away. It was unfair of me to accept the kindness of others, while Maria was left behind to struggle in the dark. Besides, more importantly, I had no idea what to do with the goodwill of others. It was a scary thing. So scary that I probably ended up hurting a lot of people. I didn't hear that Maria had undergone the memory site protocol until it was too late. I just lived out my days as a student within these cloistered walls, without a care in the world. Oh. And this makes way too much fucking sense. And I didn't even think about it. God damn. But yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Oh shit, man. Poor Black Iris. No one, I was already wondering, like, even if they were, like, not really on good terms anymore, she must react some way, but she didn't, obviously, because she doesn't remember. Oh, damn. She never stopped crying, ever since the day you left. You had to be removed from her memory, otherwise she herself would have died. That was all Dexter would say to me when I asked him why he'd done it. I turned, only to see that my companion was now walking a little behind me. Oh, and that is what he meant with Maria is dead. I think this was always confusing to me, like Dexter said she's alive, he said she was dead, and I'm like, what is going on with her? You know? That explains quite a lot. Don't mind me. I'll be fine. It's not me. See, I just have no control over this. These were the exact same words that Analia was fond of using. Wait a minute, what is she talking about? Tears running down her cheeks, okay. Except there was one difference. Unlike Analia, the girl didn't stop crying. But I was jealous of her, because she was doing exactly what I found myself unable to do when I lost Maria. Instead, I just sat down in a black alley and watched the rain come down on me. Completely useless. You're the one who's really hurting, so it's unfair that I'm the one who's crying, right? She tried to smile and desperately dabbed at her eyes, but that didn't stop the tears. In fact, it just made her look more fallen than she already was. Maybe. See, it's true. It hurts when you break up, or you are blamed, or you are hated. But none of that hurts as much as being forgotten. I finished with a smile. How strange. I never thought I'd ever be able to talk about Maria with a smile on my face. Because every single time I thought about her, things got difficult. So difficult that I completely forgot how to smile. So I took my companion's hand. She was crying so hard that she couldn't see ahead of her. Let her cry enough for both of us. I began to lead her through the hills, back to our city. Yes, let her cry enough for both of us. The past was the past. It was never going to come back. My companion didn't seem to want to stay in the church once we got back, so I brought her back to my place. It was dark out. The clouds hung threateningly low overhead. So we had dinner together and then started reading together as per usual. It started raining right around then. We could hear the raindrops drumming on the roof. My companion listened attentively for a few seconds. Excuse me. And then she asked, "That song, it was so beautiful. What's it called?" "I don't know either." "I see," she replied with obvious disappointment. Well, not that I didn't know how she felt. "I want to sing it too, but I've forgotten the words," she said with a wry smile. "I'm sorry, I've forgotten as well. So why not just get it, with Lars and such?" "Oh, God, no, don't do this to me. This is too sweet." This is too sweet. This is too sweet. I can't handle so much kindness and loveliness and La? Why La? Huh? Well, see, it's pretty, clean, and it works well with singing. Mm-hmm. She blinked slowly, and then, softly, she started humming the melody as she remembered it. Her voice was so soft and gentle that the drumming of the rain threatened to drown it out. And yet I heard every last strain. Her voice lost its uncertainty after a while. It grew stronger and warmer as I listened. I could feel it embracing me, sinking into my every pore, filling me up inside. And as long as I was like this, I felt as if I could forget all the pain and the sorrow that I'd carried with me. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, I thought we'd go back to reality, but she wasn't named La yet. So I guess this will come after the song or something like that. The dark city where I was born. The factories where people toiled and died. The dead-end streets and unmarked graves. Maria. Everything was vanishing from within me. Vanishing? I bolted up from my chair. She stopped singing that instant and looked up at me with surprise. Oh. Oh? Okay, now I'm confused. So, basically, apparently she has like kind of memory side powers. That by now seems at least clear. But, she apparently can erase memories with, singing? I mean, that would make sense. After she sang to Black Iris, he started to forget shit, And here again, things are starting to vanish from his mind. My worst fears had come true. She had no idea what had just happened. So she just stared back at me innocently. And that filled me with burning pain. "I'm going out. I'll be right back," I said as I ran out the door. I was too impatient to even take my umbrella. I just sprinted out into the rain. I took the trolley to First Street, to HQ, but Anali was nowhere to be found. So I came back to Fifth and ran to the church. Oh. Fucking hell, man, that face expression is new. I was totally soaked by the time I saw the stained glass windows in the distance. I ran up the hill and burst into the church. Sure enough, there Anali was, standing at the podium. It took him a long time, it seemed, to realize that I was there. Finally, he turned to me and said, "My, what won't do to get all wet like that. Take care of yourself. The girl, she at your place again?" Anali said with his usual dry composure. But I had no time or patience for his platitudes. "Just what is she? Answer me." His face hardened as he fell silent. I continued to glare at him. I wasn't playing any of his games today. "She tried to erase my memory just now. I don't think it was intentional. At least not on her part. So tell me, just what are you scheming?" "Oh, pray tell, what did she do?" "She sang a song, that is what." "I see. A song." Anali nodded. He seemed so satisfied. But I wasn't about to let him get away with it, so I asked, "She's a memory site, isn't she? A freaking Omega." Or Omega, as you apparently say in English. Just like you. He stopped smiling that instant. For a while, he did nothing. But in the end, he nodded curtly. Correct. That's why I'm raising her. To what end? What the hell is an Omega anyway? Impressive. Most impressive. It only took you, what, 3 years to ask that question. I've been waiting. But you already know now, don't you? I continued to glare at him, but Anali just brushed it off. His smile twisted a bit. Obviously, he was enjoying himself. You've seen it with your own eyes, haven't you? You've been past the gate. I know you have. Right. I'd slipped past the gate on 8th Street, the so-called Gate of Farewell. Every cured patient left the city through that gate, or in a body bag. And honestly, I hadn't much interest in Omegas until I'd first met Anali 3 years before. I'd known from the beginning that he was a genius, and not above using underhanded methods to get what he wanted. I'd also known from the beginning that he was using me, but I didn't know why. So obviously, I'd been investigating on my own. So one night, I'd waited for the changing of the guard at midnight, and used that opportunity to slip out of the gate. I knew that if I was found, I'd be expelled from town, but I didn't care. I was greeted by a wide corridor that seemed to stretch on forever. There were little rooms on either side of the hall. Each room had a big window on its door. I looked into one of them, and was shocked to see a small boy there. He was sitting deathly still on a chair, and just staring back at me. But that didn't last for long. He burst into tears in a matter of seconds. It was unreal. There was no sound, no noise, just tears. I looked around, and I realized every single one of these rooms had a child in it. How long was the corridor anyhow? How many children were imprisoned here? I stopped looking into the rooms altogether after a while. I knew exactly what I'd see. It was enough to give me the worst headache of my life. All I knew was I couldn't stay here, which was why I ran for dear life back into town once it was safe. It kinda makes sense though now that he is not that harsh on the terrorists, I guess. Because, he had seen how fucked up that is, what is going on in this world. But, I start wondering, really. I start wondering what is going on, like, in the overall matter. So are they, like, collecting Omegas to, I don't know? And also, what? Also the crying, I don't know, do they start to cry when they feel like the desperation of another person or so, because they have that much empathy power or something? Like, there are a lot of questions I'm having now. All those children's, they are all Omegas, aren't they? Correct. I was one of their number, long ago, he said with a nod. They were all crying, weren't they? But it wasn't because they were sad themselves. It was because you were there with them. I have no idea what you're talking about. Come on, even I get it, Black Iris. Those children have no selves. They are empty. Echoes. They take on the emotions of people near them, whether they want to or not. Because they each have a hole as big as their souls, and it needs filling. I thought of all those children, all those tears, and I cursed. But Analia just smiled back. Don't feel sorry for them. They don't feel a thing. No pain, no sorrow. Oh really? And what about yourself? You're an Omega just like them. And so is that girl. The worst thing, when you realize you are you. I came to that realization one day. I wondered what I was doing here. I wonder what would happen to me as I took all the sorrow, held it in. You saw, all children, no one else. Because none of them grow up. They all vanish, overwhelmed by the psychic corrosion of others. I didn't want that. I escaped from my room. I wanted to live. I didn't want to vanish. Obviously they caught me before long, he said with a wry smile. But they didn't make me go back. They had no idea what to do. With an Omega who had volition, I was the first. That's my nickname. Ah yeah, the Alpha of Omegas. Yeah, makes sense. So they let me out, made me a researcher and professor of memory psychology. He sighed deeply. He looked like he's gained a few wrinkles, just telling me the story. Now his hands were gripping the podium, in order to support his weight. And then he opened his mouth again. But the psychic corrosion inside me never vanished, not even afterwards. I'd have been fine, if they were really mine. But these were all someone else's. People I'd never seen before. What was I supposed to do with that? That's why I started looking for a pure Omega that nobody had found yet. And I found her. She's young. Too young. Can't take my psychic corrosion. Yet. But that's fine. So, you plan to foist your freaking psychic corrosion onto her shoulders? These memories aren't mine. And they're heavy. Too heavy. So heavy I can't stand it anymore. You planned this from the very beginning. I told you, didn't I? That I had a use for her. Anali was smiling. I watched him for a while, and then my hand naturally went to my pocket. Out came the gun that Anali had given me 3 years ago. I pointed it at him, and he nodded at me, gently. As I said, that's fine. She'll cry, and know no end of tears, if I give my memories to her. I won't let you. I have no intention of stopping, you know. Oh, I didn't even get that. So if, she solves his problems. Oh, God, now I understand, everything. God, diggity damn it, am I stupid. So, first of all, that is the reason why La cried the whole time. Every time being with Black Iris, etc., etc. Because Black Iris had these problems. She was crying because of Black Iris, or because of Black Iris's problem. And on the other hand, if this guy with the most problems in the world, puts his load on her shoulders, then she will never be able to handle it. And will probably break down. Oh Jesus, now I get what the actual problem is. And why did you give me this gun? For a moment, Analia couldn't find the words to say. But it didn't take long for him to recover. Like Iris, you fool. I made a little wager. Would you take away my pain first? Or would she? Don't you see? I don't care which one it is. All the same to me, and equally painful for you. I bit my lips and steadied the gun. You're the first person I ever asked anything of. No, there is another. But he didn't like me. Too bad. Probably the uncooperative student that he'd once told me about. He told me that he had a philosophical objection to a healthy person just lying down and dying. He hated the dolor, heart and soul, and so he could never kill me. But you know how to handle that. I hope. Analia sneered. All the trace of any smile had now disappeared from his face, and all that was left was a grim and austere determination. It was almost majestic. So, Black Iris? That moment I realized there was no way I'd be able to talk him out of this. So I said, tell her, just once, that you love her. You can do that. You should do that. I averted my eyes. I felt like I could face anything, except for this. But Analyi didn't move a muscle. He just stood there, looking straight through the gun and into my heart. It was startlingly clear, his stare. So clear that it burned. I made ready to pull the trigger. Yeah, it would be so easy. Just one pull and I found I didn't have the strength or the heart to do that. The gun felt so heavy in my hands. It was the weight of the world. I couldn't hold on to it. I let it fall to the ground. The gun skidded for a long time. It sailed right past Analyi and disappeared into a crack in the floor. I will not kill you. But it wasn't as if that girl was going to turn Analyi down. No, she'd keep taking his pain away, even if she was burdened with all the psychic corrosion in the world. I had no idea what to do anymore. And that was just as well, because there was nothing I could do anymore. I stumbled out of the church, step by step. I could feel the Alpha of Omega's eyes on me the entire time. They seemed so sad. Okay, sorry, we're doing a cliffhanger, but I thought he would shoot him. Didn't he mention he shot him in the church? So we get some more build up to that, I guess. But man, that's some heavy, heavy stuff. And I wonder how true it actually is that all these Omegas have like no own personalities. I mean, La obviously has a personality, you know? Even in this state, she has a personality. It's probably that they have no personality because they're kept in rooms, you know? And are not let out. On the other hand, of course, it's very difficult because like they feel the pain of everyone. Like they're... Still, you can't keep them just in rooms, you know? Man. Well, let's see what happens next episode. So thank you everybody for watching. And come back for that. And I'll see you then. Bye bye.